5 minutes of required repairs, and somehow this race still ended with a 7th place finish. Five minutes of required repairs. A lot of iRacers would have hit escape and queued up for the next race. By the end of this race, that decision got me a P7 and gained iRating. This reminded me of one of the biggest mistakes that I see iRacers make. And if your goal is to gain iRating, it could be costing you every single week. Let me show you what happened. So everything was going according to plan. I had qualified, I think, P10, had moved my way up to about P7. And as I'm going through here, my race strategy is just trying to be able to stay clean, take some little advantages when I can, and this is when it kind of all went wrong. I thought that I was going to be able to go low on this person, but I got into his left rear and ended up causing an accident and almost ended my race. I ended up with about 5 minutes of damage. And in this situation, what would you do? And with that, I decided to go ahead and continue. I wasn't really sure how much damage I had, and was able to start repairing some of the damage. 5 minutes feels like your race is over, but that's where a lot of drivers make their biggest mistake. This is where most people will just hit escape. But iRating doesn't care how bad your race was, it only cares about where you finish. So at this point, my whole goal was just to try to stick with the pack the best that I could. I know I had a bunch of aero damage, as I still probably had 4.5 minutes of damage at this point. So my goal was just to try to avoid any accidents or any chaos that's ahead, and just try to stick with them the best that I can. And do my best to make sure that I'm pitting every time that I'm able to, and just hope that more cautions come out. And for this race, lo and behold, there were actually quite a few cautions. This was one of the incidents that happened ahead of me and caused another caution, and I was able to get another minute of damage repaired at this point. At this point, I really am just hoping that several more cautions come out. I know that I'm able to probably get close to keeping pace with the people up front, and so this time on my restart I actually tried to hang back just a little bit so that I was able to get a little bit of a run and be able to keep up with the pack. On this restart I was able to time it pretty well, and it allowed me to be able to get into the middle of the pack. And in doing this, it helped me realize that as long as I had people around me, I was going to be able to keep pace with them. That my arrow wasn't damaged that much to keep me completely out of the race. So now my goal was just to stay with the pack and be able to get damage repaired on each of the cautions that came out in the rest of the race. And yet again, my patience paid off here, as the second place car got into the rear of the first place car and got him into the infield. However, this racer did a little bit of a no-no and acted as if he spun out as he was trying to accelerate back up and stopped on the track. It benefited me, but it definitely looked like this was probably intentional. So make sure that you guys are not stopping on track on purpose, because that is against iRacing code. And then on the restart, I did get another good start, but however, because we tried going 3 wide through the first 2 corners, we ended up losing too much momentum as we were all basically fighting per position for really no reason. I thought that I was going to be able to pull up and pull behind him, and it ended up making me lose the draft, and I got behind a decent amount on this. So that was one mistake that I definitely learned from during this race, to just make sure that just to be able to stay in line and not lose the people in front of me, because if I don't have someone behind me, I wasn't going to be able to have enough draft to be able to stay with people. One thing I noticed with these incidents that were going on in this race is it was always someone that was getting into someone's rear when they were on a corner. So you want to make sure that you're not getting into someone's rear or getting super close to them on the corner, because that's going to make them get loose and cause them to slow down, and then you'll get into the rear of them as well, causing another big incident like this. If you haven't been able to tell by now, this was definitely a caution-filled race, and here was another spot where I almost got into another incident, but I was able to avoid any extra damage. As soon as I saw that smoke up ahead, I kind of let off and was able to slow down enough to be able to react to this incident. This gave me another opportunity to be able to pit one more time. On this restart, I did start just a little bit early, but let off, and still was able to time the green flag pretty well. And at this point, I think I only had like a minute of damage left, and so I knew I was going to be able to stick with them pretty well, as most of that aero damage has been fixed at this point. So my whole goal here was just to be able to stay up here and maybe get a decent finish out of this. Overall, I was pretty confident that I'd be able to stick with the pack and be able to get that decent finish that I wanted. So this goes to show why when you don't leave a race, you have the opportunity to be able to gain something that you otherwise definitely would have lost. So at this point, we're on lap 89, and I'm pretty happy with the P13 that I'm in currently. But there's disaster that strikes ahead, and the leader gets, again, the second place guy gets into the rear on a corner, which is not what you want to do. So I did my best to avoid what I could, and I downshifted one too many times and caused myself to spin out, also get hit a little bit more to cause a little bit more damage. Right after all that was fixed, I think I added like 3 more minutes, which gave me about 4 minutes of damage here. And even with this damage, I didn't give up. I got a good restart and was able to get into the draft and be able to make up some spots and start moving up. Here, again, because my race had been so bad, all I was trying to do was be able to get a decent finish and not get any more incidents, as I didn't want to lose any more of the safety rating that I've already gained. And here on the last green-white checker that we went into, I got myself into a decent spot, was on the inside line, and just decided I'm just going to hug the inside line and hope that they're able to pull me into a better finish than the 13th that I think I was currently in. And this turned out to be the right race strategy, as the leaders ended up getting into each other on the exit of the corner and caused them to get a little bit loose, caused them to spin and slow down some other cars, and I was able to cross in P7. A great finish for a race where I had 5 minutes of damage and just didn't give up. And as you can see here, I started in P13 and was able to finish in P7. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this race, it's this. Don't judge your race by what happens in the first few laps. Judge it by where you finish. When I got 5 minutes of required repairs, I could have done what a lot of drivers do. Hit escape and enter a new race. Instead, I stayed in the race, repaired the damage at every chance I got, avoided more mistakes as the best I could, and I kept putting myself in a position to capitalize when other drivers were able to make errors. That's what iRating rewards. It doesn't care whether your race started perfectly, it cares where you finish. If your goal is climbing iRating, stop asking yourself, can I still win? Start asking, what is the best finish that I can still get? That mindset alone will get you more iRating over the course of a season than trying to win every single race. Sometimes the biggest gains don't come from your fastest races. They come from refusing to quit on your worst ones. If you found this video helpful and want more videos on Racecraft, strategy, and how to become a smarter oval racer, consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one. Keep finding speed.